Hour 2 Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line of the final score. Love is in the air, guys. Love is in the air.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, Tiger Woods, man. Tiger is revealing to the world that love is in the air.
Why on earth would a guy looking for privacy announce to the world that he's in a relationship as high profile as it comes?
Yeah.
And then to ask for privacy? Like, are you insane?
Like, it doesn't make
sense. And then
sense.
post pictures of him on a lounge chair. It's just
the Bernie Lomax picture is really strange, man. Like, he's got glasses on. He looks asleep.
Yeah.
He looks like Bernie Lomax.
He looks passed out.
Yeah, it's like, who took that picture?
yeah.
Laying beside a corpse.
He had to say to somebody, "Can you take a?" He looked like who?
Like a wax figure. It looks like he's a dead body. She's like laying beside.
It's
like
a mannequin of Tiger Woods.
Yeah, he would have had to say to somebody, "Take a picture of us on this lounger."
Yeah.
And then to just be Tiger Woods, man, and go. Everyone's going to find out about the relationship once he sees you holding hands, going to a restaurant, whatever it is. I don't understand that post.
I think he looks great outside of his salad.
Well, yeah, the salad, and it's also waist up, right? He had the Achilles, so he's probably got like a leg brace on.
But he looks jacked. He looks in great shape.
He is jacked.
The salad
he is jacked. The salad is
he's
very
always got
concerning.
arms. He's always got pecs.
Whose salad?
He's just got tiny little legs that are just
Wow, and
basically falling off.
They've taken such
and his
a
hair's
beating.
gone.
Yeah, his salad.
His salad, but
Whose salad was it on the weekend that you sent that picture to?
The Liberty the head coach of the Liberty men's team. What is his name again? Ritchie McKay is his name.
Oh, you got to lay eyes on this guy's salad.
His hair, because your belief is, Noodles, that it's paint.
That is
the middle part is paint.
Who was Trump's old lawyer?
Rudy
Giuliani.
Giuliani.
That's Giuliani paint on his salad.
Who are we referring to?
You got to take a look at this picture. Oh,
where is the picture here? We got to post. We're not even up right now, so I don't know if we can get it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it at some point here. Okay, we're working on it. There it is. All right. So the 90% of that is real hair. In the front is like a little.
It looks like he took a piece of paper.
Yes.
And had the line and then spray painted.
I think it's spray painted the top.
That's a spray paint job.
Yeah.
Over top of the hair that's kind of a
that
little tight.
is like someone's ball landed in the rough. And they took a chunk out and they dug a sand wedge out, and the guy just came along with some fertilizer and sprayed over top of it.
Yeah.
There's just no way that can be real.
That's a peninsula.
We have to be careful nowadays because there are AI generated stuff. That's not AI generated.
To my knowledge, that is this guy, Ritchie McKay, the head coach of the Liberty men's team. That's his real hair. And I don't know. That needs to be scientifically proven. And you're right. That could be AI. I hope it's AI.
Right.
I hope for his sake and for anyone else that even contemplates a haircut like that. Because that could be what Tiger's got coming in the future. Well, Tiger may decide we got to get a little bit crazy here because...
Well, if he's got a new girlfriend, what if he shows up with just like the Agassi hair or something? Like just
I don't understand, man. LeBron, KD, Tiger... They could disappear for 2 weeks and come back with brand new hair, and they're so cool and so popular and famous, no one would know.
Well, you'd have
no one.
But you can't if you're LeBron, like you're not playing with a helmet on. Football players, hockey players can do it.
I get it, but you just disappear in the offseason. No one sees you.
That's the move. In the offseason, you show up day one of camp picture day and you have a completely new hair.
And
that you can pull off.
They're so rich. They're not flying to Turkey.
No.
They're flying somebody from Turkey.
That's right.
To their house.
Stay at their house.
Yes.
Turkey's on the way in. Turkey's flying in.
Right.
Because you can get stuff within the States. There's a place.
Scalpel, sewing kit, off the bird in LeBron's basement.
That's right.
I have a buddy
That's right.
who's very proud of it. And he went to Calgary. Apparently Calgary, Alberta's got a place.
Okay.
And he actually, once he got it done, and he told me the story, it was incredibly painful and all of that. They cut like the back of his scalp and then attached it to the front. He said it was like resodding your lawn.
Yeah.
And
it's reconstructive surgery.
But he always bugs Strutty. He's like, Strutty, you got to go down. No, I'm not lying. They cut the back of his scalp, let it heal, and then put it on the front like a new sodding. And he's got a glorious head of hair. And he always gives it to Strutty every time. He's like, Strutty, I'll give you the name of the guy and everything.
Some guy in Calgary that knows.
But it's not heading to Turkey. It's not going to San Diego where.
San Diego, I've heard, is great. I've heard it's great. You can play Torrey Pines because it's like La Jolla, I think, is the name of the town, which is where Torrey is.
Right.
That there is a famous scalp guy down there, but he costs a fortune.
Of course, yeah.
Like that, it's probably like well over $100,000, I would guess.
$100K to get
like you're paying a lot of money for this, but apparently it is spotless.
Yes.
Like it just perfect hair. And I think this guy from the Liberty men's team and possibly Tiger. I just wish I knew more about this Tiger photo shoot because he's got glasses on and a hat in the second one. It's so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
it looks
awkward.
It looks like Bernie Lomax.
Yes.
Like he really doesn't look like he's alive in the picture. All right, joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline, here's our TSN hockey analyst, Bruce Boudreau. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, guys. How are you doing today?
Well, we're doing very well. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well. Anytime I get a chance to come back to the city, I'm doing well.
All right. I love it. You're up in Toronto. Well, the weather, can you believe it was snowing this morning?
No,
so
it was
disgusting.
snowing on the Don Valley when I was driving up
I know.
here. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Gross.
Ridiculous.
Gross.
I was disgusted. By the way. I woke up and all the ground was white, and I went up and I woke my mother up and I said, "Your damn city's got snow on it again."
It's a travesty because we were out. It was beautiful last week. It's the worst when it snows late March. It is a travesty. But anyway, it's great to have you on, Bruce. We appreciate it. And we were discussing the Leaf game the other night and maybe what to expect tomorrow night. And no one expects this. No one's going to win every single game. It's not going to happen. Florida's going to lose. Tampa's going to lose. But for me, I understand why Leaf fans were disappointed on Saturday night. I would have been as well if I was in that room because you're up 2-0 against a terrible team that is really waiting to throw up the white flag, and they let them get back into it in the second period. Not only get back into it, take over the game and eventually win in regulation. Right. What's that like if you're in the moment? Like if you're playing the role of Craig Berube and you're in the room in the first intermission, you think we've got this. Like we're a better team, we're a veteran team, we're up 2-0, had a great first period. How do you possibly explain what happened the rest of the way?
Well, you really can't. But it's a game that when you're sitting down, and because all coaches are doing this, they're writing their next games, where they think they're going to be, what they have to do to finish where they want to finish, and they've got this game in the bag. They're playing a team that is in last place, basically, has been no good all year. You got a 2-0 lead. You don't give up leads very often, and you come in and you let them win, and it's to me, it's 2 points wasted or lost. And you know what? They are going to lose games, but you count on those games to win. Those ones that you have to win, but that you're much better than, that if you come to play, you're going to win. And they didn't come to play, and now they got to make it up with a game against Philly, and I'm sure they'll play so much better, and because Philly looks like they're not even trying anymore. But that's how Nashville was, and it would be a terrible feeling in your gut if you came in and you played Philly and you lost this game.
So, Bruce, we were in the last hour talking about the goaltender rotation, and you had 12 games left. How would you handle this scenario? In your mind, would you already have an idea of who you wanted to be your starter in the playoffs, or would you kind of play it by ear as to who was maybe hotter or you felt more comfortable with as the playoffs approached in that last week?
Well, I think you would already know in your mind who you want to play. Like you've been watching these guys for 70 games now, and I mean, you know who you think is the better goalie. And I mean, at some point they've got to make a decision that I'm running with this guy. And like I remember when I was in Washington, we came down. We had Cristobal Huet after the trade deadline and Ole Kolzig, and I went each one a game, and then the last 7 games, Huey looked really good in the one game. Then the next game, Ole lost, and then I ran with Huey the rest of the way and through the playoffs. So I mean, coaches do pick the one guy, and you want to give him a couple games to realize that he's the number one guy, that he's the guy that's got to be able to do it. So I think at some point Craig is going to do that. I mean, and pick that one guy and tap him on the shoulder and say, okay, buddy, you're the guy that we're going to run with. But, and then you go tell the other guy, be ready, because I know you're just as good. And if there's a chance that we have to play you, we're going to play you. So don't think of this as something that you're out and gone. We're going to need you at some point in the playoffs. So, but I would pick somebody and run with that guy.
Brucey, how much would you be pressing for this Atlantic Division title? Would this be something that you would be on the guys every day? And do you think it would come across as almost panicky if it was like, we've got to win this division? Or how do you think you'd approach that?
Well, I would not approach it that way or say we got to win it. Because you're right, it would be panicky. But in my mind, I would say I would really like to win it because I think it's advantageous for us to win it. You're not coming into the dressing room and saying, boys, we got to win the Atlantic because we're not good enough to beat Florida, Tampa, and then Florida or Tampa again. And so, I mean, that would sound like you have no faith in the team. But when you're sitting there, you go, man, I'd really like to end up in first place to be able to play a team like Montreal that is playing at the top of its game, or so much above the top of its game if they were the team that made it that you had to play, or, that couldn't possibly sustain it. But it's certainly a better alternative, I think, than playing the second or third place team in the Atlantic, whoever it is. So if I was Toronto, I'd really want to win I think it would be my advantage to get in first place this year.
With Bruce Boudreau, and we asked about the goaltenders, 12 games out, trying to pick one or have a feeling on one or the other. I'm curious, how that relates to choosing the lines, where I think we've got some clarity in terms of the D partners. Like, I think we know what the three are going to be. Maybe Myers gets in for Benoit, but they seem pretty committed to Benoit playing with Ekman-Larsson. If McMahon is going to stay on that second line, it feels like the top six is intact with Nyes, Matthews, Marner, McMahon, Tavares, Nylander. My thing is the bottom six seems to change almost every shift. Or at least every period or game, where I don't get the impression Berube really knows what he wants, loves what he sees, where he's going to fit these guys. How unsettling is that, 12 games out from the playoffs, where I'm not sure he knows exactly what that lineup's going to look like, third line, fourth line going into game one.
Yeah, I think it's almost an ad lib situation. Let's see. Okay, we start off this way. We know who the top six are, but if the game goes a little haywire, we're going to change this all up. And I think the players, they feed off of that. They realize that too. So I mean, it's unsettling to them as well, and more than anything. And I think if I was Craig, I'd say, okay, boys, this is going to be 3 games to go. You don't have to go overly. This is going to be our playoff lineup. Let's make sure that, this is what we're doing, and everybody else has just got to spot in and do it. But these are the 4 lines, and I'm going with you. I might have to make some in-game movements, but for the most part, we're going to practice this way, and this is the way we're going to play. These are the units. So when we go in the playoffs, we know what we're doing, and everybody knows that there's no questioning this is how we're going to do it.
Brucey, what's the timeline on a newcomer coming in before you have a not-so-comfortable meeting? I think Scotty Lawton's come in. I don't think it's gone his way. I believe in the player. I like the player. I like what he's all about. He just hasn't played well. So when he comes in, you don't want to be spitting fire right away, but how have you handled situations like that in the past where there's a grace period, then you got to have kind of the coming to Jesus meeting where it's like you got to play better?
Yeah, I think, again, the last 4 or 5 games, you give them 10, 15 games, but it's not all of a sudden like if you're listening that they're saying, I'm not talking to him from game 20 to game 5. You're talking to him all the time. You're building them up, and then you start, if he's not getting it, you start giving him a little bit of crap, and then when it comes time to say, hey, listen, you're unrestricted. You got 5 games here. We traded for you because we thought you'd be the guy. You're just not doing the job. Let's get our butt in gear and start doing it. And I think it's got to come with a few games left to give him a chance to correct himself and start playing better. But you can't wait till the end of the season. It's got to happen at some point.
With Bruce Boudreau, our TSN hockey analyst, I want to play two clips here. One from a player, Jonathan Kovacevic of the New Jersey Devils, followed up by one from the coach, Sheldon Keefe. This was from over the weekend.
We're in a fight, and hopefully that, gets us in that playoff mentality, 10, 11 games out, and we carry that into playoffs. So, obviously the results are tough, but we're in a fight here, and we're not going to back down.
Kovacevic just mentioned to us that he thinks the team kind of needs to have that playoff mentality going down the stretch here. Is that something
Kovacevic just needs to play better. That would help.
Have you ever had any moments like that, Bruce, where a player said something, the media came to you with response, and you had a similar response to that of what Sheldon had over the weekend?
I don't know. I mean, we've heard Sheldon. I can't remember or recall having a response like that right away. But I think Kovacevic was saying everything as a team, and Sheldon just came up and buried him. And he did. I recall him doing that to Matthews, Marner, Nylander last year a little bit, but retracting it a day later. I don't think he's going to retract this, but I don't think it does any good when the player is he's getting asked the question by the media, and he's trying to, say the right things, and then the coach just comes up and buries him. I don't think that's a positive approach, but I mean, I can see how Jersey is feeling at this time because, let's face it, they've been so inconsistent. If they didn't have such a good first half, they would be the second half. They've been under 500, so I mean they wouldn't be in the playoff race. So I can see how Sheldon's getting a little antsy right about now.
And we were talking also, Bruce, about maybe the player himself. It was not the messaging was wrong, but it's Sheldon going, "Why is that player speaking for us?" I mean that's probably you. I'm sure you probably sat in your coach's room and going, this guy who's never played a game in the playoffs, that's probably not a guy who should be speaking for my team type of thing.
And if he is, Jamie, he better be on fire.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of what you wonder. If he saw something out of Kovacevic that night and he's like, I can't...
No, he hated him to begin with after the game.
I can't listen to anything from that guy. I can't do it.
But don't you think he's sitting in his stall? He's not begging for the media to come over, and the media is asking him a question, and he's just trying to answer it as politically correct as he could answer it. But I'm sure he didn't go over there and give me a mic. I want to talk to you guys, like we've seen other people do at some point in their careers, and so he could have said, well, I really don't think that I should be the one talking, but I don't hear anybody ever saying that. So I thought he was just trying to be nice.
Oh, I think that's what he was doing. Right, yeah, I think that's what he was doing. It's just, Keefe just he wasn't in the mood for it, I guess. And maybe he would have had the same response if any player said that. But
maybe. That's a good point. I agree to that because he was obviously not in a very good mood. And you know what? The one he did a lot of great things, but Chuck Fletcher always came up to me after the game, no matter win, lose, or draw, and he'd say, "What's your message to the media?" Because he didn't want me to say things about the players or call out players or anything like that unless it was absolutely the perfect time for it. So he would calm me down and say, okay, that's a good message, or that I don't know if that's the right message tonight, and stuff like that. And I don't know if anybody had a chance, if Tom had a chance to talk to Sheldon before he met the media that night.
I'm not sure he did with Bruce Boudreau. How about Sidney Crosby, currently 11th in scoring in the league?
Point a game again.
Yeah, more than that. He's got 78. He only needs a couple more, and then he's going to continue his streak. What will that be? 19 straight seasons.
Unreal.
With at least a point a game.
Yeah.
The guy, he's unbelievable still, Bruce.
It is unbelievable, and I was just talking about it's going to be a sad day, quite frankly, when him and Alex hang it up. And, I mean, they've both played, 19, 20 years now, and they're both doing great. And when Sidney can do it with that team, and if you see half the wingers he's had all year, they get rid of Gensel, they'll get rid of, they've at least, he's made Raquel back into a 30-goal scorer and stuff. But, I mean, I'm amazed all the time at him. And how good and how consistent he is. And listen, to me, he's willing the Penguins. The Penguins aren't going to make the playoffs, but he's willing the Penguins to compete on a nightly basis right now. And that's because he's competing. And I've asked so many people, is he like this in practice? And that he says every friggin' day. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, unbelievable player, unbelievable. I'm so proud that he's Canadian because he treats the game the way it should be, and he's a marvel. And I mean, if there was a bigger monument, he'd be on it. But I always thought that monument should be grown into about 6 or 7 people rather than the 4 they talk about.
Yeah, he is something, man. And you're right about that. Like the whole Mount Rushmore thing, and it's always been, Gretzky and Lemieux and Howe and Orr. Crosby's 5th for me if he's not into that top 4. Like, he's got to be in that conversation in terms of, legends of the game and Canadian greats and all the winning and the production. And
at
this stage.
It just doesn't seem reasonable to compare the way Sidney Crosby plays hockey to Bobby or Gordie Howe.
It's hard because it's era adjusted.
Yeah,
I would put Dom Hasek in there, like personally.
Yeah, you could absolutely.
Was ridiculous as a player, but it's and Bruce, you can speak to it. You've seen all the different generations. Like, it's hard to bring Bobby Orr into a conversation in today's game. It's just, because of he was that dominant back then, but the game was so different back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he changed the game, though. That's why when I keep getting asked this question, whether it was Gordie Howe or whether it's Bobby Orr, the Mount Rushmore, and because there was the 4 presidents up there, we talk about that. But the Mount Rushmore, somebody's got to go out and build another president's head behind it so we can have 5 or 6. Because there's every era, there's new generations of great players. Maybe not as great as the 4 Mount Rushmores, but this is definitely a 5th one. When you look at what he's going to do, he's going to end up playing 19 seasons with over a point a game. That's like, I scored a little bit in the minor leagues, but I mean, this is incredible at that pace on a good team and a bad team, and it doesn't matter. And the way he's held the mantle for hockey has been unbelievably outstanding, and I think there should be another president's face on that Mount Rushmore, and it should be Sidney's.
Yep, I'm with you there, Bruce. Thank you for doing this. We'll do it again soon.
Sounds good. You guys have a great night.
There's Bruce Boudreau joining us here on the Maple Toyota Hotline. Drive the built-in Canada fuel-efficient, fun-to-drive Toyota RAV4. Gas or hybrid models available. Visit mapletoyota.com. And Sid is averaging 20 minutes and 21 seconds per game. So he's still playing a ton. He's playing like a true number 1. And
he's ridiculous. I watched him play yesterday. He was one of the only noticeable Penguins. Brian Rust had a couple goals. Rust had that one-handed beauty where Sid floated it into him. But, Pittsburgh's not, they're not a very good team. But Sid is ridiculous still.
Yeah, he's still playing, man.
His level is through the roof.
It's retrospective analysis, but looking back on it, if Sid and Pittsburgh was going to continue to work, they needed to not hang on to everybody, and they needed a Jason Robertson to come through and other young players to kind of steal the spotlight, and Sid be amongst them, like the Dallas Stars or the Washington Capitals. They just don't have that. They don't have anything close to that. That's how it would have to work now. But it's just they hung on to everybody, and them as the band staying back together alone had no chance to do it. You're not going to grow old together in that league and still win and compete and make the playoffs, let alone win series. Like, they needed some underneath support, some young guys. Wyatt Johnson,
Yeah.
Those guys aren't there.
They're not there. The cupboards are bare. That's why, because they went all in. I don't think they have to apologize.
They don't have any regrets. They won all their cups.
All in, they won. But now you're seeing the remnants that and it's unfortunate that Sid, I don't know if he ends up finishing it or not. Pierre LeBrun had made a comment to us in saying that his contract is backloaded, or front-loaded.
So the point is, Jamie, you had to have the vision and the stones to realize the year after you won back-to-back cups, you got spanked in the first round. And I believe it happened again the next year. That's when you turn the tables.
Yes.
And it's forward thinking, and it's very difficult to do. Same thing happened with Chicago Blackhawks. First round, spanked. So there's something different here, and it ain't going to work continuing to go forward. But it's so difficult when you have those legacy players, and you're trying to make the fans happy and the people happy and the players, and you feel like you owe them because they brought you championships. As soon as you start getting spanked in the first round, look out.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, it's true. And, this is what you're going to get, and likely for the next, couple of years in Pittsburgh. But Sid is pulling his weight. He was great at the Four Nations. He'll be at the Olympic Games next year. And honestly, you look at the best centers in the league. We should do that one day, like just rank it and just find out where we would still have him. Because he was obviously at the top of that list for 12 years, 13 years, close to 15, basically until McDavid showed up. But it's McDavid, McKinnon, Draisaitl, I'd say Matthews, Barkov, Eichel, I think, is in that group now.
Yeah.
And is Sid there? Is he like number 7, number 6?
Yeah, I mean,
like if everyone's playing at their height. I mean, Matthews, again, has not had a great year. So Sid's been better than him this year, which is kind of amazing to say.
Yeah, I mean, we're missing one or two, but you're right. You just named the primary suspects, we'll call them.
Yeah.
And Sid has to be right in there because he's been that effective. But the top 10 for sure.
Absolutely, he's still in the top 10 for sure. He is
crazy. Yeah.
All right, Richard Griffin later in the hour. Chris Johnston still to come. Jesse Marsh in about an hour. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. Every once in a while, you get a really helpful tweet that just you need it.
You need it.
Yeah, Al's sending us a tweet. Why are we putting the top 4 or 5 players who appear to be all Canadian on an American mountain? We have a mountain of our own called Mount Logan, the highest peak in Canada. Thank you, Al.
Yeah, good stuff, Al.
Good stuff, Al. Good point. Mount Rushmore, you're out.
Where the hell is Mount Logan?
Now we're going to start calling it the Mount Logan list, and people will totally understand what we're talking about.
Well, no, I mean, now
the whole point is everyone knows what the Mount Rushmore thing is.
We should draw attention to Mount Logan.
Okay, Mount Logan. Shout out.
Where is it? I'm just looking it up right now.
Yeah, it's in the Yukon. You have to know that kind of stuff.
No, I don't know. I don't know mountains very well, but the fact that it's in the Yukon, there we go. I mean, Al giving us some.
Thank you, Al. From now on, that is how we will answer things.
Furthermore, if you try to turn the TV on and we're not where you'd like it, there's nothing we can do about it.
I like how you always go, ask JP.
Yeah, JP
is the television and radio program director. But don't ask us, say, what the hell is this? Tennis, get the tennis off. It's out of our control, folks. Yeah. It's out of our control.
We show up, we put the mics on, and we talk for 3 hours. You can find us everywhere, right? Wherever. Yep. Usually we're on TV, radio. You can find the podcast. You can find us on YouTube, on tsn.ca. You can find everything. All right, we're out there. It's just a matter of where you want to find us. We're available for you.
We got to do a Mount Logan.
Mount Logan. All right, we'll start doing a Mount Logan.
Very high. Where is Mount Logan?
I got my list. I'll get to it at 6 o'clock before CJ. Fan experiences throughout the country. The 7 Canadian teams. The Mount Logan list. That's coming up at 6 o'clock.
You want to give us a little hint on who's the most upset?
Yeah, I think you guys can figure out number 7.
Like, who's pissed?
Who do you think? Which fan base in the country
number
right now?
7, Vancouver.
Yes. Yeah. Vancouver, for me, is a clear-cut number 7.
And Pedersen went home. Did you? I don't know if you saw that.
And Hoglander.
Well, but he got hurt off
the draw. Something weird happened there. But Demko is playing tonight,
which is a good sign. But I mean, overall, here's my guess, and I don't want to get into it, but I think Montreal's 1, and I think Vancouver's last.
Do you want me to give you the answer on that?
No. Save it.
Okay.
I just think that's where people's head go to. That's where my head goes to right now,
I can't confirm or deny.
But I do believe you gave me a little smile. I think that's where it is.
You might be onto something.
But Vancouver has to be 7. Like they're
miserable in Vancouver. Absolutely miserable.
But it's been it's a year they can't recover from. Like, it sucks.
Well, and you're not going to, you don't suck enough where you're likely going to get a top-end player in the draft.
Right.
Like, there's nothing worse than thinking you're a playoff team, not being a playoff team, and picking 12th.
Right.
Like,
but if you said,
fine, you'll get a decent player, but you're not getting the Schaefer kid or.
No, but if we said at the start of the season, like, Vancouver was a playoff lock for me.
It felt like it.
I thought they got better. They didn't get worse in the offseason. I think on paper they got better.
Yeah.
But injuries,
been miserable.
Inconsistencies, and then the whole Miller-Pettersson thing. I said today, I felt like if management has to bear any type of responsibility for this, they didn't deal with that nonsense earlier. That dragged out for a long time.
Yeah. Well, you know what the big thing now is? You see some tweets where people are like, "It's like they want to be a tire fire." Now they start worrying about Quinn Hughes because they're like, if they continue to be a tire fire, what is this guy up in 2 years?
Yeah, you still have him for 2, but that's like the nature of a superstar on any team is really you negotiate the summer before.
Right.
Like, that's like this summer, McDavid can negotiate with Edmonton. You know that's the top story.
For sure.
Is he going to sign? When's he going to sign? How long is the contract going to be?
You want to go ahead and be a tire fire next year. How do you think the convo is going to go with Quinn Hughes? Because he's going to say, I'm on the back 9 now. What the hell do you think I want to stick around here for?
Absolutely.
But you have to give him a clear pathway of what you're going to do. That's fair to the player, but the player has to give some intention of what they're thinking as well.
Yeah, and 2 years, exactly. 2 years out is an eternity in sports. Like, look at the last 2 years in Vancouver. Like, you could not have two polar opposite seasons.
Agreed.
So I'm not even sure how you predict what's going to happen in the future.
No.
If you're Rutherford and Alvin and company.
He's only 25.
Yeah, and he's so good, man. Like, he's trying to carry that team as much as he can. And it feels like with every loss, and St. Louis keeps winning. Well, like St. Louis won again yesterday.
You know who might be really good tonight?
Kovacevic. I'm watching that guy ISO cam against the Canucks tonight. I need him to have the best game of his career.
He might.
Because someone's head is going to pop off. Either Sheldon Keefe or Rick Tocchet. Right. Someone like Demko's going to give up a soft one early. Yeah. Or Kovacevic is going to, pinch and he shouldn't.
Yeah.
Something's coming tonight.
Well, Jersey's right on that cusp, man, where if things get a little bit hairy.
18-wheeler, man. There's some gas going in that 18-wheeler.
Yeah, they are at the en route, let's say, and filling up for a long run.
The Jersey Turnpike, I think they call it. Like, it's getting a little dicey down there. All right, the Jays they're home. They're here. They're ready to rock. Thursday, home opener against Baltimore, and the 26-man roster has been revealed. There are a couple of surprises in terms of who made the team. We'll catch up with Griff, get his take on all of it, start setting the scene for Thursday. And Alejandro Kirk got himself a 5-year deal. What does Griff think about Kirky getting paid? And what do we expect out of him this year? That more still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2. All right, I'll get to my list of the 7 Canadian fan bases. Who's having the most fun? Get to that in about 20 minutes.
I nailed 2 of them.
I can't wait for that.
Oh, it's a lot of anticipation. And I think Blue Jay fans, they're having fun right now because the Grapefruit League was a resounding success.
How much
for the Jays?
How much weight do you take in that, though? That's like winning the preseason.
0.
That means absolutely nothing.
I know, but it is nice.
I guess it's better than being like dead last and losing and being awful.
Yeah.
And, they're relatively healthy. Varshaw's going to start on the IL. I don't think that's a surprise, but relatively healthy. Pretty positive news on Scherzer.
Right.
I think we're going to see him game 3 of this opening series. Let's ask a guy that's been going to spring trainings for a long time if he puts any weight into the Grapefruit League championship, which is what we just witnessed. Here's our friend Richard Griffin. Griff, do you place any value whatsoever in a positive win-loss record for the Blue Jays in the spring?
Hey, man, there's going to be, I believe the Golden Grapefruit Victory Parade goes from Booster Juice on Bay to Booster Juice on Bay. Higher up.
I like it. Upstairs or something like that. I like that idea.
I think in researching their history, the Blue Jays' history at spring training, their 2 World Series wins, they were well under 500 at spring training, and their worst seasons, they've had winning records. So this does not bode well if you believe in such things. But it really means nothing. I mean, you have guys coming from nowhere like Alan Roden and making the team. You have Ryan Yarbrough showing up at camp, and the Jays counting on him to be a left-hander out of the bullpen and a long reliever, and he opts out on the last day, and they say that they were going to cut him, but I think he just wanted to go to the Yankees, that's all. Mm-hmm. And so it's the first time since 2019 that they've opened at home, and it'll be the first time that any of these Blue Jays have opened in Toronto.
Griff, before we get into the details of the roster and the expectations, just a quick comment on Shapiro coming out and saying they're going to be they're optimistic that the Jays and Vladdy will get something done. What do you make of the stances from both parties here?
Well, it's obvious to me because in October at the end of the season, he said Vladdy was a good player, but he's not a generational talent. And now 6 months later, with no games being played, he says that he's got a chance to be a Blue Jays legacy player. So somebody's pushing him in this direction, and my belief is that it's Rogers' ownership that's going to be here a lot longer than Mark Shapiro is, and that would coincide with the length of a contract that they would give to Vlad. I think that it's pretty simple. You know, they're either going to do it or they're not, and if they're going to do it, why not on Wednesday morning before the Thursday opener and create such a big splash? And it's simple to do. And these numbers are ridiculous to begin with. We all agree with that. But $38 million per year for 14 seasons after this one. So he's got his 28.5 lined up, and that adds up to 560.5. Offer him an opt-out after the 2030 season, because that's when our friend Alejandro Kirk's contract runs out. So yeah. You're obviously setting that as your window of competing. And then see if he'll defer at least some money down the road. I mean, if they're going to do it in November, they might as well do it now.
Yeah, I think this is a window of competing with Alejandro Kirk. I don't know if you're being serious or not, Griff, but this is a front office that is generally not. They don't love the idea of long-term contracts for really anybody. I mean, they gave one to Springer, they gave one to Barrios, they gave one to Randall Grichuk somehow.
Yeah, they gave one to Kirk of all people.
And that's it. Like, this is, I think, the fourth one where they've given a guy a deal like of multiple years, like 3+ years on a contract, 4+ years on a contract. He gets a 5-year deal. He's the guy, though, right? Like, he outlasted Jansen. Marino really never arrived here. Heineman, if you're wondering, is going to be the backup catcher this year. But they believe in Kirk. And I understand why behind the plate. I think pitchers love throwing to the guy. But if his bat doesn't return to where it was a couple of years ago, how do you make sense of this commitment to Alejandro Kirk?
Yeah, the caveat with Kirky is that he's never started more than 89 games. And you don't just say, we're going to give you this money and you're the number one starter, and all of a sudden your endurance and your ability to catch 120 games shows up. That's just not the way it works. But the funny thing is, when Alejandro Kirk showed up in 2020 during the COVID summer camp at Rogers Center, nobody knew who he was. And the coaching staff was looking and suggesting, this fat little Mexican, he's got the best bat-to-ball skills in the clubhouse. How can we get him on the team? And now, 5 years later, everybody's worried about his offense and raving about his defense. And so the ability to hit has been there. He just needs, to me, to be able to catch 110 to 120 games, and that isn't necessarily a given. And when you've got Tyler Heineman behind him, that'll be 73 games if he only does the 89 that he did last year. 73 games where you're worried about production and defense behind the plate.
Yeah, that's not ideal. I mean, you do not want that. You don't want to see Heineman that many times, if he even sticks it out throughout the whole year. I mean, there was some competition in terms of that position coming out of camp. We're chatting with Richard Griffin, but what did you make of Max Scherzer's comments over the weekend where, I'll paraphrase, but he was asked if he feels like they got a good club, and he basically said, I don't know, and we won't know until we get into the season. And it wasn't necessarily a shot at like the roster or the depth chart. He was pointing to his experience where you got to get into the year to know how professional guys are, how guys show up, how guys react to losing streaks.
Yeah, but Brian, if they were a World Series contender, he would say, we have as good a chance as anybody to win a World Series. So he basically knows what the hell he's getting into.
How do you interpret that, Griff?
I interpret it as Max Scherzer finds it difficult to give a thumbs up because his thumb is killing him.
Very true.
But at spring training, I mean, here's a guy who's showing up for his first camp with the Blue Jays, and from spring training, from having been to so many spring trainings, this is my 53rd opening day in the major leagues. Having been to spring training all those years, you know that at camp, these guys never, if they're not pitching, they very rarely stay for the game. They very rarely get to interact with everybody else. And so he's right. Until he travels on charters, spends time with the same 25 guys in the clubhouse, he won't know. And so he's just being honest about it. He doesn't want to pump, especially if he thinks he's not going to be a big part of it. And I heard you guys last week discussing an over-under on Scherzer starts 15 or 20. I think if he could give them 25, they'd be thrilled.
Oh, I think they would pounce on that, Griff. I think if you offered 25 starts, they would absolutely jump. I think they might take 20 from him right now.
But I sent Pete Walker before spring training. I sent him an out. I sent him my version of the 6-man rotation, and it allowed for an extra day for every starter, every start. And through the All-Star break, they still had basically a number that would put them at 32 starts at the end of the year. And there were fewer for the third and fourth guys, and that would be Max Scherzer. So if they can get Yariel Rodriguez in the mix and push everybody back a day, I think that could benefit Scherzer. That first day, he'll probably have his hand on ice trying to get the swelling down on his thumb. But, I mean, he didn't want to give an opinion because he doesn't know how big a part of it he will be.
Something to chew on brought to you by Boston Pizza, Canada's favorite sports bar. Enjoy $15 lunch at BP where you get an entree, a side, and a drink, and you'll get it all in 20 minutes or less. A fast lunch doesn't have to be fast food. See you for a $15 fast lunch at your local Boston Pizza. We've been asking online, Griff. I'm curious how you would answer this. Who is more likely to return to form for the Blue Jays this season? Closer to the prime versions, which is not realistic for either guy. Right. But who do you think you could say by the end of the year, wow, that guy actually looked like himself more often than not? Max Scherzer or George Springer?
I think Scherzer. I think Springer was part of that, we talked about earlier about the signings, the big free agent signings. I think Springer and Hyun-Jin Ryu were both Ripple signings where the club was showing Major League Baseball that they were back in business, that they wanted to compete with the big boys. I think they maybe didn't expect that Springer's performance would last as long as his contract did, but it had the effect. When they signed Ryu in 2020, it had a ripple effect, and people looked at the Blue Jays differently, and same thing with Springer. But I think his best years are done, and it's going to be what we saw last year, the rest of the contract. And so, to me, Scherzer, if he can go out there 20 to 25 times, you're going to get from him because he's got unbelievable competitiveness and savvy, and I think that can carry him through if a diminished fastball, which it was down to 92.5 from 95, 96. I think there's no doubt in my mind that the return to form would be easier for Scherzer than Springer.
Well, Griff, it's been a blast catching up with you. I mean, what else can we say? Always great catching up with you. And we're closing in on go time here on Thursday. Are you feeling optimistic at this point? Like, where's your head at in terms of a kind of a prediction for the season before we get you out of here and before they start the season?
I had a learned friend say to me that the Blue Jays are 2 bus crashes away from contending in the AL East. So
okay. All right. Is that Baltimore and Boston? The Yankees? Who are we including in that?
Well, the Yankees have already had their accidents. They've had, and then, you get to play the Orioles without Gunnar Henderson and Grayson Rodriguez. And, so there's an opportunity for a good start, which obviously we all agree they need in April. I think that they've got a chance to win anywhere from 74 to 88 wins.
Okay. That's a big gap. That's a massive gap. But somewhere in there, we will be correct. He is Richard Griffin from griffsthepitch.com. Thank you, Griff. Appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Anytime.
There he is. Yeah, listen, the Yankees they got issues with the rotation right now.
Right.
Baltimore's a bit banged up. I don't think there's a superpower in the American League. The Centrals, the Guardians are always pretty good. Royals, Tigers were good down the stretch, made it in. Houston feels like they're going to take a big step back.
Hey, man, you got to play the games.
You got to play the games.
That's right.
If you can do something like what the Guardians and the Tigers did last year,
yep.
Like as a Jays fan, a Toronto sports fan, you're always asking yourself, why can't that be them? That just do like KC got on a little bit of a run, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but it gave the fans some excitement. They could do it. That's possible.
That's
for
what
them.
they need. Exactly. Health and a good start.
In a perfect world, 91 wins?
Well, yeah. I don't think that's – you're talking wild card right now. Ideally, you're chasing the division, but they never seem to do that. I feel like 86, 87 gets you in this year.
What I can't do after 10 days or even after the first couple series is just watch dribblers in the infield. And we're on the show.
Power. They need power.
We can't be looking at them saying they just can't, like runners in scoring position. That story is sickening. That's 2 years worth, man.
Yeah, it is sickening. The numbers that they've had with runners in scoring position, you see it all the time. And it has to come to an end. It's got to be better.
Yeah.
All right, CJ coming up. Jesse Marsh and our best bets. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.